Hello, faculty and students. Thank you for taking the time to review our presentation on vaccination refusal and the ethical dilemma associated with it. Presented to you by Aidan Wagenhofer, Brittany Bailey, Krista Barrett, and myself, Maggie March. We chose this topic because of the recent outbreaks of measles nationwide. This topic of parents refusing to vaccinate their children is a prevalent topic in healthcare right now, and our goal is to bring awareness with our Healthy People 2020 objective to reduce measles cases. With the eradication of measles in the U.S. in 2000, vaccinations proved to have power in optimizing public health by protecting the public against communicable disease. Since then, there may be a gap in education due to the amount of people in the country who have not actually witnessed the detriment to which measles has caused in the past. To some, this may be a hoax or a way for the government to manipulate or control the public. Our main goal is to educate our future patients on the importance of vaccinating their children in order to decrease the incidence of measles, which can be a completely preventable disease if 100% compliance is met nationwide. It is a problem because parents are not educated with information that is supported by empirical evidence. Some of what the general population believes is a product of hearsay, which is portrayed in the media, or what they read or hear from unreliable sources. Education is the biggest and most important factor in this ethical dilemma. Parents need to have the facts so they can make educated decisions when it comes to the health, safety, and overall well-being of not only their child, but of all the children that their child will come in contact with. Measles is spread through respiratory secretions, including coughing and sneezing, and the virus can live in the air and on surfaces for up to 2 hours. The infected person can spread the virus 4 days prior to the characteristic rash that appears, and up to 4 days after the rash appears. 90 out of 100 people that come in contact with the virus will be infected. The only way to completely eradicate measles is to have 100% compliance nationwide with the MMR vaccine. Before vaccination was available for measles, there was an estimated 3 to 4 million cases per year in the U.S. alone. Measles accounted for about 500 deaths, 48,000 hospitalizations, and 4,000 cases of measles encephalitis annually. This is a problem in the U.S. currently because people are dying or at risk for a disease that is completely preventable through vaccination. Parents who are not educated about vaccinations, have false information, or have heard myths regarding vaccination do not understand the significance of them or the danger they are putting their child in. I would like to believe that a parent would not intentionally place their child in harm's way. However, what they are not educated about, they do not know. It is our duty as nurses to abide by our ethical principles and provide our patients with the most recent information and education they need in order to make the best decision to ensure safety for their child.
Hi, my name is Brittany Bailey, and I'll be discussing the most common opposing views to why parents refuse vaccinations for their children, and I will also discuss the pros of why parents should vaccinate their children. The first point I would like to discuss with all of you is how parents feel there is an infringement of their right to choose. Parents believe that making medical decisions for their children should be left to them because they believe that it is within their freedom to make such a sensitive decision. They feel that if they lose this freedom, this can be the beginning of losing other individual rights in the future. The herd immunity will protect my child is another reason why parents do not vaccinate their children. Herd immunity in general is a form of immunity that occurs when a significant portion of the population provides protection for individuals who have not developed immunity. However, the growing anti-vaccination groups, herd immunity is beginning to break down, leading to measles and pertussis outbreaks that we see today. A few other opposing views are that of the belief of toxic vaccines, how these vaccines can cause harmful side effects such as autism, a serious allergic reaction, and a worry that multiple vaccinations at the same time will overload the immune system. These are views that are understandable, and it is our job as healthcare providers to educate. For instance, the link between vaccinations and autism have not been found, and yes, there are various ingredients in vaccinations that can be considered harmful, but only in large dosages. While doing my research, I found it interesting that children are exposed to more aluminum in breast milk and infant formula than they are exposed to in vaccinations. And with regards to thimerosal, another ingredient found in vaccinations, it is a mercury compound that has been removed or significantly reduced to trace amounts in vaccines for children under the age of 6. There's one big belief going around with anti-vaccine movements, and that is the belief that all vaccine-preventable diseases have been eradicated. It's believed that certain diseases no longer exist, so there's nothing really left to harm us. Many opposing views, I believe, stem from my final point of parents trusting unreliable sources on the internet. Parents get persuaded by a favorite actor, actress, or some social media influence, and they're unable to distinguish unscientific evidence from scholarly sources, leading these parents to believe blindly in what they hear and see. Most of it is fear-mongering, which ultimately puts their children at risk, although they believe they're protecting their children. Now I would like to discuss the positives of vaccinations. Vaccines can undoubtedly save children's lives. Many diseases such as diphtheria, measles, mumps, pertussis, known as whooping cough, polio, I can go on and on, are vaccine-preventable diseases. The CDC has estimated that childhood immunization prevented about 419 million illnesses, which leads me to my next point. Not only does vaccinating children save lives, it also saves parents time and money. But why is that? Vaccines cost less in time and money than it does when a child obtains an infectious disease. Not only is the child's life in jeopardy, caregivers will have to take time off from work to care for their sick child. They may have to deal with long-term disabilities related to the side effects from the disease, such as blindness from a severe measles infection, and also shoulder the medical costs related to the care of treating the disease. A measles case in Arkansas cost the health department $47,926, and as of May 20th, 2019, there were 880 cases of measles in 24 states, costing taxpayers an estimated $42.2 million. My next point covers the topic of how vaccinations are safe and in small amounts, but since I discussed this already in my previous slide, I'll breeze right over that and discuss the rarity of adverse reactions. This point is brought up most often with anti-vaxxers, but they take this so far out of proportion that it doesn't even relate to the actual population that experiences an adverse reaction. The most common side effect of vaccines is anaphylaxis, but this occurs in 1 per several hundred thousands to 1 per million vaccinations. And combination vaccines like MMR have been used without adverse effects since the 1940s. Other positive supporting reasons to vaccinate is that vaccines protect the herd as well as protect future generations. This is critical to younger populations that are not old enough for particular vaccines, as well as older populations that are more susceptible to diseases, as well as immunocompromised individuals who cannot be vaccinated. Herd immunity is so important to preventing the disease because lacking a threshold of immunity in the population can result in outbreaks. My last two supporting points as to why vaccinations are so important is that vaccines have eradicated smallpox and have nearly eradicated other diseases such as polio. And since these diseases have nearly been eradicated, it is important to continue to vaccinate because they have not all disappeared like smallpox. In the US, we may not see the effects these diseases can do to an individual, and I believe that leads us to drop our guard, sometimes making the assumption it can never happen to us. But the CDC states that many vaccine-preventable diseases are still in the United States or only a plane ride away. We're much more interconnected as a people than we once were, especially with the ability to travel to all corners of the world. We have to be ever vigilant as healthcare providers to identify possible diseases, contain, and protect the population. And the first place to start is with educating the importance of vaccinations to protect ourselves and future generations to come.
Hi, this is Aiden. So how do parents not getting their children vaccinated relate to healthcare and nursing? First, as nurses, it is our responsibility to care for the sick, but it is also our responsibility to educate health promotion and preventative measures. Second, vaccination is a form of primary prevention, meaning that vaccines prevent the disease process, therefore reducing need of treatment, reduction of healthcare costs, but also reducing the debilitating effects the disease could potentially cause. It is even more important to advocate and initiate the conversation for our younger patient population who does not have a voice of their own. We must find ways as nurses to not overstep boundaries with the parents of our younger patients, but develop a trusting relationship with them. Once we do that, we can teach them the latest evidence based knowledge and the importance of childhood vaccinations, discuss the risk versus benefits, and provide additional reputable sources so that parents can make informed decisions rather than being influenced by false information circulating the web.
When nurses face an ethical dilemma, we use the ethical decision making principles. These principles provide us with a firm foundation to decide the correct action for each unique ethical situation that we come across. Veracity is defined as the duty to communicate truthfully. Nurses can use veracity by providing the truth about vaccinations, the expected side effects, and positive and negative outcomes of receiving vaccinations. When nurses and other healthcare professionals provide information to their patients in a truthful, non misleading way, it builds trust, opens communication, and improves the chances for compliance with treatment. The nurse's role is not to attempt to persuade the patient in any way, but to simply provide the facts and answer questions as truthfully as possible. By doing so, this allows the patient to make an educated decision about their treatment.
Non-maleficence is selecting interventions that will cause the least amount of harm to achieve a beneficial outcome. The ethical principle of non-maleficence can be difficult for us to make as healthcare workers, as this is a decision usually made in higher political positions. This is a decision where counties or state officials decide on the guidelines of vaccinations, such as what immunizations are required for a child to attend school, or what immunizations are required for healthcare workers, etc. These large decisions are made not to single out or persecute individuals who refuse vaccinations, but to ensure the safety of the majority population. Some anti-vaxxers may be trying to take advantage of the herd immunity, but unknowingly, many others have the same belief. By losing the protection of the herd immunity, these anti-vaxxers are at an increased risk for catching contagious diseases that could have been prevented through receiving vaccinations. This is part of the driving force as to why there are county and state requirements for vaccinations, as the government is trying to inflict the least amount of harm to achieve a beneficial outcome, such that the benefits of vaccinating children outweighs the risk of not being vaccinated and endangering a larger population.
Beneficence is defined by the ANA as actions guided by compassion. We utilize beneficence daily as we administer pain medication or hold the hand of a grieving family member. Beneficence is an ethical principle used when engaging with a parent who is against vaccinating their child. Even if we do not agree with their decision, we are still a healthcare provider who needs to remain understanding and compassionate. We can use our ability to educate and use empirical evidence, updated research, and statistics to try to enhance the parent's understanding. Nevertheless, we cannot be judgmental or lose compassion in our approach to helping parents become knowledgeable about the effects of not vaccinating their children. The ethical principle of fidelity directs us to model care delivery with altruism, loyalty, caring, and honesty. Fidelity is used because we need to be selfless when caring for our patients. We cannot allow our own beliefs to affect how we care for our patients. We cannot try to influence the parents or make them feel bad for their decision because we do not agree with them. It is our duty as nurses to build trust with our patients and their family members and educate them as much as possible in hopes that they will trust us enough to allow us to care for them in the best way possible.
Autonomy refers to the patient's ability to govern their own care. As a member within the healthcare team, nurses must respect and support their patient's decision to vaccinate or to not vaccinate their child. But this is done after the nurse has assessed that the patient has received all information, risk, benefits, and complications regarding their child's vaccinations. To promote autonomy and well-informed decision-making, nurses can provide handouts, discuss concerns, alleviate misconceptions, and teach about the process of administering the shot. Justice is achieved when nurses provide care that is fair and equal. Nurses should offer vaccinations to all patients they come across, regardless of age, religion, and disease outbreak. For low-income families who do not vaccinate for financial purposes, nurses can refer them to a national program called Vaccines for Children, where they can receive free immunizations for their children. For families who choose not to vaccinate, our nursing care is not terminated there in the moment. Families should still be educated on how to identify when their child is sick and when it is time to go to the doctor and receive treatment. They should not receive nursing care that is different than families who do vaccinate their children.
Hello, my name is Krista Barrett, and I'm going to be speaking about the ethical dilemma associated with vaccination refusal. Not only are the patients putting their own child at risk with refusing vaccinations, but they're also risking the safety of other children and the public as well. As nurses, we have a responsibility that is challenged because we have a role to educate and advocate for our patients. The parents also have a right to refuse vaccinations. So, in this instance, all we can do is educate our patients and try to remain non judgmental. The school mandate also poses an ethical dilemma. You don't want to refuse education to children, but you also don't want to put other children at risk. Listed in this slide are a few solutions that we feel would assist with the vaccination refusal. Education plays a key role in the vaccination refusal. We believe that it is our job to provide evidence-based resources for parents so that they can make an informed decision. We also feel it is important to continue to implement vaccination policies in school, daycare, and healthcare facilities. We also feel it is our job to provide resources that will improve access to health care. Not only that, we believe that there should be standing orders for vaccinations in healthcare facilities as well as in education. As nurses, we have the opportunity to speak with other people to implement laws that would uphold vaccinations. By doing this, we believe this would provide a solution to the vaccination refusal and provide more information and education to our parents.
Over the course of completing this project, our group was downright allured by the topic of vaccine refusal. At first, our research focused on why the number of those refusing vaccinations for their children is becoming higher and higher, despite the risk of contracting the disease. The multitude of reasons astounded us, but also helped us to understand a patient we may cross paths with in the future. Our research has also taught us how to help our patient make more informed decisions and attain vaccinations in general, which may be the solution that is needed in the state our country is in. Overall, the research that we have done will affect our future practice by preparing us for when conflict between us nurses who encourage vaccinations and those who deny vaccinations. We all now have more evidence-based practice to apply over the course of our careers to confirm and disprove any misconceptions, but also eradicate communicable diseases in the long run. We now have a video relating to our ethical dilemma.
If you live in a community where everyone is vaccinated against, say, the measles, you're protected whether you get vaccinated or not because everyone you come in contact with is and always will be measles-free. So why get vaccinated, right? You're already in the best possible position. You get all the benefits of the herd immunity without any of the cost. You are free riding on a community benefit without paying for it. Here's the problem. As more and more people become free riders, there's less to ride on. The herd immunity that protected the free riders weakens, and now those that are unprotected because they opted out and those that are still too young or ill to be immunized are more and more at risk. This is a serious problem. U.S. vaccination rates have fallen, and our measles vaccination rate is 91% for children 1 to 2 years old. lower than half of the countries in the world. The vaccination rate for herd immunity to reasonably protect a community from measles is estimated to be 83 to 94%. We are already short the high end of that range. If measles is introduced into a community below this threshold, it could create an epidemic. If you don't vaccinate your kid, please don't ask me not to judge you. I don't care if you breastfeed, I don't care if you eat your own placenta, because it doesn't affect my family. But if you don't vaccinate your child, you're putting other kids that are too young or too ill to be vaccinated at risk. But let's be civil and look at this from a game theory perspective. Parents don't make decisions based on what's best for the community. They make decisions based on what's best for their family. Fair enough. Let's take a look at the decision from that angle. There are the costs. There's needles, babies hate needles. Some mild possible side effects such as rash, fever, bruising. Some parents also consider the unsubstantiated link to autism as a risk. It's not true, or at least it can't be proven, but nonetheless, this factors in for some parents. Many parents see little benefit to vaccination. If the community is protected, the risk to their child is minimal. And people seem to forget how terrible these diseases are and discount the value of protecting against them. If that's how you weigh the costs and benefits, even I can understand why some parents opt out. So how can we fix the individual cost-benefit decision so that parents choose both what's best for their family and their community? We need to increase the cost of not vaccinating, and simply shaming these parents is not going to do it. We need to ban kids that are not vaccinated for reasons of personal belief from our schools, our daycares, and our homes. This may seem harsh, but the alternative is worse. The real risk of a measles epidemic may be the only way to convince anti-vaxxers of the benefit of the vaccine. But let's not wait around for that.
Thank you so much for watching our presentation on vaccination refusal. We hope you enjoy.